So here's how to use every sub-weapon in Splatoon 2 as of version 4.1, including the new Fizzy Bomb. There may or may not be at least one more sub coming, but it ain't here now, so I'm only talking about the ones that are currently here. This video is a sequel to this video, so I'm going to try not to repeat myself too much of what I said then, but you can barely hear what I said in that older video, so it doesn't really matter. Also, each one will get a new rating, but since ratings are completely subjective, they won't be numerical ratings, but there also will be a tier list at the end. For each sub, for a truly comprehensive experience, this video will cover things such as base ink tank consumption, also known as BTC, which is essentially how much of your tank the sub uses if you're not using any ink saver sub. I don't know if that's what's actually called, but that's what I will be calling it. There's also whether or not to consider using any ink saver sub for each sub. Not if you definitely should, or how much, just if you should think about it. And also some weapons that work well with each sub will be listed on the side. Not necessarily the best kit combination for that weapon, or the best weapons overall with that sub, just a sample of weapons that happen to work well with that sub. So here we go! Splat Bomb! Throw it to cause a small ink explosion. Has a BTC of 70, 30 splash damage, and 180 direct damage!
That's a lot of damage!
Subsaver can be good for this weapon, and with sub power it increases the throw range, and because it's covering a greater distance over the same amount of time, it's also moving at increased velocity through the air, cause that's how physics works, kiddos! This is the most versatile sub weapon in the game. There really should be a set of every weapon that has a Splat Bomb. It's really good at controlling space, zoning people out, or getting free easy kills. It's especially good on short and mid-range weapons, since your bomb throw range is longer than the range of your main weapon, so a Splat Bomb allows you to attack foes out of range. You can also throw it a little bit further if you get a running start. Hot tip! It explodes after 1 second, but its detonation timer only counts down while it's touching the ground, so it explodes faster if you roll it as opposed to if you throw it. So throw it to attack someone up high or far away, roll it to explode faster on a closer target, or drop it at your feet if you're being chased and you need to get away. It's a very simple default weapon, but it's also probably one of the best, if not the best, which is why I give it a splatter shot out of 10. Suction Bomb! Throw it to stick to walls. 2 seconds after it sticks to something, it explodes. It's got a BTC of 70, again 30 splash damage, and 180 direct damage.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Subsaver is good for this weapon, and sub power up again increases your throw range and airspeed. Suck bombs are not as practical as Splat Bombs, however they do have some advantages over them. First off, suction bombs have a bigger explosion radius than Splat Bombs. Second, they take 2 seconds to explode as opposed to the 1 second of Splat Bombs, but it can feel like even longer since suction bombs don't start counting down until they stick to something. This may sound like a bad thing, but can actually be really good in terms of controlling space. If someone sees a suction bomb, they're gonna be like, oh, I ain't going over there. So if they need to do something like get on the tower and tower control, or pick up the Rainmaker, it can prevent people from doing that for a longer period of time. Throwing a Splat Bomb is like saying, please leave. But throwing a Suction Bomb is like saying, please leave and never come back. You can also stick it to a wall to set stealthy traps. Hot tip! Suction Bombs have a weird spherical hitbox, so you can stick it near the top of ledges and still do damage to something on the top of the ledge. So overall, I would say that they're not as good as Splat Bombs, but instead they're similar, but different in their own unique way, which is why I give it a Xenoblade X out of a possible Xenoblade 1. Burst Bomb! Explodes upon contact. Has a BTC of 40%, it can do 25, 35, or 60% damage if you're lucky. Subsaver can be good with this weapon, and sub power up increases the throw range and speed, but not the damage of each burst bomb. Burst bombs are the weakest of the bombs, and the only ones that don't have one-hit KO potential, but they do explode upon contact. If you get 2 direct hits on your target, then that's a kill. The problem with that is that it's almost impossible to get 2 direct hits on a moving target, and in Splatoon, you're mostly fighting moving targets. Even 1 direct and 1 indirect hit isn't enough to get the kill on someone at full health. So the best way to use the Bust-a-Nut bombs is if you're using a short-range weapon and you shoot someone a couple times and they start to run away, you can finish them off with a quick burst bomb. Also, if you're getting shot at and enemy ink is surrounding you and need to make a quick getaway, you can throw burst bombs at the ground to give yourself a path to escape. Burst bombs just help you out a little bit, so I give it a Oompa Loompa out of a possible first aid kit. Auto Bomb. Walks towards the nearest opponent, then explodes. If no one's there, they explode immediately. BTC at 55%, does 30 splash damage, 150 direct damage. Subsaver is very good on this weapon, and sub power up increases the throw range and air velocity, but not the walking speed at all. Auto bombs are really good at scouting out opponents and making them move a little bit, and that's about it. Most of the time you get a kill using them, it's because your opponent fucked up, not because you did a really good throw. So you're not going to be getting a lot of Kentucky Fried kills with them. To dodge one, just go one way, then go the other way. Works every time. That being said, I still really like auto bombs. One of the big advantages of them is that they take less ink to use than other bombs, but still have one-hit KO potential. For most weapons, you need one main and 2 subs of Ink Saver sub to be able to throw 2 auto bombs in a row without needing to refill in between. Something that was discovered a while ago, but still worth mentioning here, is that now with a custom Splash Shot Jr., you now have the I'm a big kid now thick ink tank. You can throw 2 auto bombs in a row without having to use any Ink Saver sub at all. In addition, with your special fully charged, you can do your own mini auto bomb rush by throwing 2 auto bombs, using your special, then immediately throwing 2 more. I do not think this justifies using the custom Jr. at all, but it's an option. It's technically an option. So for the little chicken, I give it a Torchic out of a possible Blaziken. Curling Bomb. Throw one out, slides along the ground leaving a path of ink, then explodes. Has a Bitsy is 70%, does 20 damage if it touches someone, the explosion does 30 splash and 150 direct damage, Sub-Saver is good with this, and Sub-Power increases the speed and sliding range. The best way to use curling bombs is to tap the R button, then surf right behind them to traverse the map quickly. Other than super jumping, it's the fastest way to travel in the game, as far as I know, and annoying ass players love to do this. You can use this to get into enemy territory quickly and somewhat stealthily, but more experienced players will see it coming. It's really good to help with movement on weapons that can't paint and move super well or super quickly. It also bounces off of walls. This is a very situational feature, and by that I mean it's mostly useless, but if you're a true intellectual, you can do some quick maths and maybe get a trigonometric kill. Finally, if you hold the R button before releasing, you can cook the curling bomb to make it slide less and explode sooner. You can do this to get some funny kills, but it really isn't super useful. The downside of using curling bombs is that, unlike any other bomb, you really don't have any aerial options for attacking opponents higher up than you, especially if you're using a short-range weapon. Final rating, I give it a sliding into the DMs out of a possible getting blocked on Twitter by someone after they harassed you, a complete stranger to them, for several hours. Huh. Fizzy Bomb. Shake it up, throw it, and then explodes up to 3 times. It's got a Bitsy of 60, each explosion is 35 splash or 50 direct damage, Sub-Saver is good to use, and Sub-Power Up increases the throw range and air speed velocity, but not the charge speed. Fizzy Bomb, the new hotness, and for a game that looks for every opportunity to make a pun, I'm not sure why they didn't call it the Sploda-Can. Hold the R button and it charges up. It charges faster if you move back and forth, jump up and down, move around your gyro controls, or just throw your whole switch. For offense, you basically only ever want to throw it after it's fully charged up. The downside of that is that no matter what trajectory you throw it at, it'll always have the same awkward bounce away from you that can make it hard to land all 3 explosions. The good thing about it is that it leaves your opponent with 3 options, and 2 of them being bad. They can either move away from you and get hit by more bounces, move towards you after getting hit by 1 or 2 bounces and into the range of your main weapon, or just move to the side, which is what they should do, but at least now, you'll know what they're about to do if they survive. Also similar to curling bombs is that when you throw out a Fizzy Bomb, no matter what trajectory you throw it at, it leaves a trail of ink on the ground you can surf through, and you can chain them together by throwing it without charging it first. But to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this feature gets patched out in the future. For a rating, it just came out, so it's hard to rate it, but for now, out of a possible Fireworks Kirby from Kirby 64, I give it a shaking up a Pepsi can and tossing it. Pro tip. Throwing a bomb at the Rainmaker, or Splash Wall, or Big Bubbles, or Baller will cause it to immediately explode upon impact, just like they saw a not safe for work picture of Bowsette. So with the exception of burst bombs, if you're on the same side as an opponent as one of these objects, you can throw a bomb at them for a quick and easy kill. Point Sensor. Tag an opponent for your whole team to see their location for about 8 seconds. Got a Bitsy of 60%, doesn't do any damage, Sub-Saver is pretty good to use on it, and Sub-Power Up increases the tracking time. This is probably the most underrated stealth weapon in the game. Knowing the exact location of an opponent in a game that rewards stealth tactics is pretty helpful, especially in solo ranks where you have very limited communication. Always keep in mind that it tags your opponent for your whole team, not just whoever threw it. You also need at least 1 main and 3 subs of Ink Saver sub to be able to throw 2 without having to refill in between. If you throw one and don't hit anyone, it'll still float around for 2.5 seconds and tag anyone who walks that area, and 2.5 seconds is a long time in Splatoon, and for you in the bedroom. Point sensors leave someone tagged for 8 seconds unless they're using cold-blooded, so it leaves someone tagged for 8 seconds. Out of a possible,
I've got you in my sights.
I give it a peeping into a girl's window while she's changing. You sick fuck! Squid Beacon! Place one down and you can super jump to it later. You can put down up to 3 total. Putting down a 4th replaces the first one. Opponents standing near one will be shown on the map. There's a bit C of 75, doesn't do any damage. Don't use any sub saver with it, and sub power up makes you super jump faster to one. Not much to say here. Try to put them behind a wall where the other team is less likely to see it and break it. Do not put one on spawn. You can jump to spawn at any point during the match. Don't put one near spawn because you can just walk. Don't hesitate to jump to a beacon, even if you're not the one with beacons as your sub-weapon. If you do have beacons and jump to a beacon, replace the beacon as soon as you land. Place them in well-hidden spots on the other side of the map if you're a flanker, or if you're in Clan Blitz and want to get to the goal quickly, provided the other team doesn't see it and break it first. It really needs a buff, like if you're standing near one, you get increased ink efficiency or something like that. Beacons are best used to get in from behind and surprise the enemy, so as a rating, I give it a peekaboo out of a possible butt set. Sprinkler paints the area around it. Throwing down a second one gets rid of the first one. Bit C of 60 does about 20 damage per hit if you get hit by one. Probably shouldn't use sub saver, and sub power up extends the max spray time. Sprinkler's best function is to charge up your special for you. Once it's deployed, it sprays a lot, then a little bit, then even less, so be sure to throw down another sprinkler in a different spot after about 10 to 15 seconds. In a turf war, throw one down right at the spawn so that no one wastes their time painting the spawn area. You handled it. You can also use sprinklers to kill Super Jumper or Ink Jetter when they land in the most embarrassing and hilarious of ways. They're good for painting the zone and splat zones, especially if you place one in a hard to reach spot, or they can just serve as a distraction since everyone always seems to stop whatever they're doing to get rid of an enemy sprinkler. This can also be used for scouting since it'll draw people out of hiding. One thing you can do after respawning and trying to get back into the fray is what I like to call chain throwing sprinklers. It's really simple, just throw one down, swim, throw down another one, swim some more, repeat. This lets you get back into the action with your special mostly charged without having to stop and paint. It's really good to do on bigger maps. So basically, sprinklers are really good at charging you up, which is why I give it a charging your phone in airplane mode out of a possible hand job. Toxic Mist, oh god. It sends out a cloud for about 5 seconds that as someone walks through it, they gradually lose ink and swim a lot slower. You can have 3 active at once, but you need to run a whole lot of sub saver to even be able to throw 3 before the first one fades. It's got a bit C of 60%, does no actual damage. You can use sub saver if you want. And sub power up increases your throw range and airspeed velocity, but not duration, which is kind of dumb. This is one of the lamest subs in the entire game. It's replacing Disruptor from Splatoon 1, but the thing about Disruptors is that you were stuck with the negative effect of getting hit by one for a fixed amount of time, and someone could hit you again with one before it wore off to renew that effect. But with Toxic Mist, it's like going to a shitty frat party. It's no fun, it smells dank, and you can just leave. You can just walk right out of there. The sight of seeing one is more potent than the actual effect. Unlike other sub-weapons, it doesn't really do a good job of controlling space, since most of the time you can just go around it, and like you during sex, it doesn't last particularly long, and it's just generally bad at what it's trying to do. Your best option is to throw one at someone and then quickly rush in and finish them off, but you can do that better with most other sub-weapons that you throw, plus they can still shoot back at you while you're there in the mist. And if you throw mist at someone, you've also lost the element surprise. But I will say it is easier for longer range weapons to shoot someone while they're in the mist, and you can also use it at the checkpoints in tower control. All in all, it's really not that good. People think it's good, but it's not, especially when compared to what has come before it, which is why I give it a Xenoblade 2 out of a possible Fire Emblem Fates. Splash Wall! Throw it out to be a temporary protective barrier. Throwing out a second one gets rid of the first one. Bit C of 60%. If you run into one, it does 30 damage per half second. Don't bother with sub saver. And with sub power up, it's supposed to be increased durability, but in testing I had 0 sub power on the left and 5 sub power on the right, and these two clips are near identical. Splash balls aren't bad, but they're definitely not good either. They fly out at a weird fixed trajectory that makes it inconvenient to use in certain spots and doesn't have a ton of HP. It can be useful in choke points like on Walleye Warehouse or Arowana Mall, or with a 200 IQ throw you can throw it on the tower, but on most maps your opponents can just go around it. Plus it takes a second to activate, so it's not something that can protect you if you're already getting shot at. It's like car insurance. You can't buy insurance during the accident, you have to get it way beforehand, and even then it's not that great and you get punished for using it and punished more for misusing it. It's just a big scam. Walls can be useful on statue weapons like chargers and splatlings, but with any weapon, because you have to use splash wall way in advance, you reveal your location and lose the advantage of the element of surprise. Plus your opponents can just break it down pretty quickly like they're the fucking Kool-Aid Man. So out of a possible impenetrable barrier, I give it a tree. Trees look tough, but I throw the ball, tree doesn't stop the dog just goes around it. Ink Mine. If someone steps on it, it detonates and tags them for your whole team to see. You can place up to 2. Placing a third immediately detonates the first one. Has a bit C of 60, 45 damage for direct hit, 35 otherwise. Sub Saver is no good. Sub Power Up increases explosion distance and tracking duration. Over 3 years since Splatoon 1 came out, and ink mines were a thing, and it's still the worst sub-weapon in the whole game, even after being buffed. The big problem with ink mines is that it detonates early if it gets covered in enemy ink, which will almost always happen. People don't just walk into enemy ink, they cover it up with their own ink first, then swim through it. So at most, they'll take some damage to get tagged, but it's not really that threatening. I can really only think of a couple situations where it would be sort of useful. 1. If you're using a statue weapon and someone's trying to flank you, you can put it in the path they'd have to take to see them coming. And 2. In splat zones, if you're in control and they're retaking the zone, you can place 2 ink mines in the zone early, then detonate them from a distance to help neutralize the zone. But those are 2 really specific situations that might not work out that well. If a direct hit did at least 50 damage, not 45, then ink mines would be a lot better. But as it stands now, it's mostly just annoying more than anything else. So out of a possible having dicks for fingers, I give it a people come into my house trying to change my utility plan. I know everyone's gotta work, but why would you even apply for that job? Everyone hates you! And don't forget about sub-strafing. It basically lets you change directions while swimming a little bit faster. I always forget to do it, but in Splatoon every frame counts, so don't be like me. The easiest way to do it is by holding the right bumper while swimming and changing directions. And that's it, video's over.